What's going on, guys? It's your man Z Moose 12 coming at you with the VWAP video that you guys requested. It's gonna be quick, and it's really not that difficult once you use it a couple times and you look at the different concepts and the different ways you can use VWAP as not only a technical support and resistance gauge, but as a technical indicator as well. I'll also explain the two indicators that I have attached with VWAP and with the indicator that I use. So without further ado, let's get started. I use typically a 5-day, 5-minute chart for the Russell 2K index futures. I have the September contracts up now. This is a chart of the September contracts for the past 5 trading sessions. I think there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trading sessions, which makes no sense, but it's cool. So let's take a look at today's action. And if you were watching the TF today, I know there were a couple of us in the chat that were watching it pretty closely. MTGMT, you were all over this trade today. It was pretty solid. But I'm going to stick the indicator up. There's a lot that's on here. The arrows, the blue and the red and the green, it probably just looks like a big jumbled mess. But for the most part, what the arrows are the stochastic crossover. It pretty much measures potential spots for entry, buy and sell. I sometimes use this if there's a good amount of volume, in the trade itself. Like off of the open, this works very well off of the open and during the close. As you can see, there's no arrow here. There are arrows all the way up here. It sometimes works and it sometimes doesn't. But the red arrows designate oversold conditions, and the green arrows designate overbought conditions. VWAP, I use a day time frame. That way you can use it intraday. And I use a deviation of -2 and +2. Deviation down is the green. Deviation up is the red. Sort of noting, overbought conditions red, oversold conditions green, and the baby blue line in the middle is the actual VWAP indicator itself. Down below here we have the stochastic momentum index, and that pretty much measures stochastics and the actual momentum of the stochastic indicator itself. So I use a 15% K and a 5% D. And this is very on the ball on most occasions when I'm using a lot of intraday charts. I don't use this for daily charts. Overbought is at 80 and oversold is at -80. But I really, really, really like using this. This allows me to also gauge sort of for entry and exits and how much momentum is going in and out of the market. It works very well with futures. So let's take a look at the TF here. And we can actually see how many times VWAP was hit today. And that's what I'm going to do right off the bat here. And remember, this is a 5-day. VWAP also works with a 1-day. I use the SPY. If you watch my midday update, I used the 1 minute on the SPY almost every single day. And VWAP works very well in the same manner at designating different kinds of support and resistances. But volume weighted average price pretty much is what it is. It's a volume weighted average price. So it's like a moving average, a simple moving average, any kind of moving average, but it's volume weighted. So normally on days with low volume like today, where we didn't do much, we traded in between a range of 663 and 655. That's a pretty big range for the TF on a 1-day time frame, but for the most part there wasn't much volume, so that's why you see this as pretty much a flat line. It's a good gauge for support and resistance, because as you can see here, there was support held, but once it broke down, we broke down hard. Again, same thing. This was news based, but still, we traded along 650. So every time here, 660, I'm sorry, was hit. Even for here, every time 660 was hit on the 5-day, you can take, 8 points away, and that's $10 per 10 cents on the TF. That's $10. So effectively, on a time frame here, you can be working, with $80 gains on the 5 minute. If we check out the 1 minute, which I don't use for TF, but just for shits, let's check it out. We can see here that it was held at 660, which is also a very important technical indicator if you're looking at the daily chart of the Russell 2K itself, which is RUT. That's the ticker symbol RUT. For here, you see that 660 was hit, and we pulled back to 658. That's a huge move. That's $200. So just simple moves like this can be made very easily throughout the day. I actually paper traded this move today. I bought in at 659.80 and rode it to 658 and took away a very, very nice gain. But that was just a paper trade. I'm not trading TF. I don't have the money to trade TF yet, and I'm not comfortable enough with using a 5K margin on one contract. It's just not. I'm not comfortable with doing that yet because that's a 50% position, and that's not worth it one bit. When I have 50K in my portfolio at some point, then hell, I'll be putting on two positions and not having an issue with it. Just 20. I won't have a problem then. But right now, I'm just paper trading this and getting used to paper trading it. So when I do have the money to trade this, I can shift right over to becoming a futures trader. The one thing that we can all take away from trading futures is that it's very technical analysis savvy, and it's very friendly to technical analysts, because as you can see, when we have a specific support or specific resistance, it's held and bounced off of. As you can see here, it was held for a little bit, but once we broke down below it, we broke down below it. I mean, that was a large, very, very large break. We got to 659, and then we pushed back to 660. Well, there's a very enormous technical range, or a technical level at 660. Once we broke down below it for the first time since 10 o'clock, once we broke down below it and we retraced, back to it, I don't know if I can do this, but hopefully I can, because this will be a great, here we go, bang. We broke, this is the exact same thing, it's only inverted. So we got to 659, came back to 660, it's a bump and run. That is a classic bump and run trade. Also called, I think, a breakout retrace by some other people. And then we continued lower. Here it shows we continued higher, but if we go back to the actual TF action today, we snapped back to 660, and then we retraced all the way down and continued lower. That's an enormous move, and these moves occur during the day when levels like this are broken on futures contracts. That's why many technical analysts trade futures. E-Mini-Player on Twitter is a phenomenal trader of the ES E-Mini. I don't know if he trades TF, and that's why I started following JT707. She trades TF, and she trades it very successfully. But I like these trades a lot because they are technically savvy. See here, we hit VWAP. We're approaching 660. We snap back down to the range that we had been trading in for about 30 minutes. We snapped back up here, broke above VWAP and 660, and continued higher 2 points. From there, we snapped back down, held VWAP, and continued higher. So you can use VWAP throughout the day interchangeably as support and resistance. It's just another way to measure support and resistance by using VWAP, and it's also a way to kind of have a Bollinger Band at your disposal as well, with the +2 and -2 standard deviation levels off of the VWAP. It can show oversold conditions, or overbought conditions. So ending today closer to VWAP is pretty healthy for the most part, for the volume that we experienced today. That's one way that you can use VWAP, and that's the way that I use VWAP, and I use it very successfully. And I found that it works very well with monitoring futures, and also not only timing entries and exits with futures, but timing entries and exits with different kinds of stocks in comparison to the stock market. So good luck tomorrow, and I'll see you all then.